Hello guys, welcome to Story Drift. Let the movie begin. This movie starts with a scene introducing a young girl named Sarah. Sarah has a strong desire to attend a party at her friend's house. However, her father does not give her permission to attend the party. Her father's name is Don. Sarah approaches her mother and asks if she has allowed her to attend the party. To this, Sarah's mother responds, "Not today, but there's no issue. You can go on another day." Sarah becomes angry because of this. She heads to her room. Inside her room, Sarah's elder sister is also present. Later that night, Sarah secretly goes to the party with her friend Christopher. At the same time, Sarah's mother comes to her room. She notices Sarah is not there. She informs Sarah's father about it. Upon hearing this, Sarah's father becomes very angry. The next morning, Sarah returns home after spending the night out with Christopher. Her father becomes furious and scolds her harshly. Sarah's mother enters the scene at this point. Sarah, upset and angry, storms off to her room. In her room, Sarah starts talking to her mother and sister. She shares her thoughts, saying that in 3 months, she will turn 18. Sarah mentions she has a childhood friend and plans to live with him to enjoy life. Unbeknownst to Sarah, her father overhears this conversation while standing outside the room. Later, Don goes to the basement and opens a secret room. He starts preparing for what will happen 3 months later when Sarah turns 18. The movie then jumps ahead to 3 months later. We see Sarah talking to Christopher on the phone. Sarah's sister is not at home, and her mother has gone to the market. Sarah and her father are alone in the house. Don asks Sarah to help him move a box to the basement. Together they carry the box to the basement. There, Don reveals the secret room and opens its door. Sarah is stunned to discover the existence of this hidden room. Don tricks Sarah and locks her inside the room before leaving. Sarah screams for help, but Don doesn't pay attention or show any pity. Sarah attempts to pick the lock using her hairpin. This effort causes the light to flicker and eventually turn off, stopping the ventilation system. Sarah examines the box they had brought and finds that it contains essential items she would need to survive. She shouts for help through the ventilation opening. Don notices her voice escaping and seals the ventilation to ensure no sound gets out. The room becomes soundproof. Meanwhile, Sarah's mother is increasingly worried and starts searching for her. But Don remains calm and indifferent. The following day, Sarah tries to unlock the door again. Once again, the lights flicker and go out. Don enters the room. Sarah attempts to push past him to escape, but the basement door is also locked. Don forces her back into the room, visibly angry. Don warns Sarah, saying, "If you obey me, I'll let you out." But Sarah refuses, further provoking Don's anger. In his rage, Don forces himself on Sarah, worsening her physical and mental state. She becomes ill and begins vomiting. A week later, the police start investigating Sarah's disappearance. Don claims that Sarah left voluntarily to live her life on her own terms. Sarah's mother insists that Sarah might have expressed such ideas, but she wouldn't have acted on them. The police suggest waiting for Sarah to contact them. Meanwhile, Sarah is deeply saddened by her father's cruel actions. Christopher visits Sarah's house to inquire about her. Don tells Christopher that Sarah ran away with her childhood friend. After 21 days, Sarah's 18th birthday arrives. Don brings her a cake and candles to celebrate. He instructs Sarah to blow out the candles, and she complies. Sarah begins obeying Don in hopes of being released. Don gives her a costume and asks what she wishes for. Sarah expresses her desire to leave the room and be free. Don responds by saying, "It's not time yet." Sarah requests a clock and a TV, and Don agrees to bring them. The next day, Don provides a clock and TV. Sarah fashions a weapon using a food can and calls Don closer. However, Don suspects her intentions and beats her, breaking her hand in the process. A year goes by and Sarah becomes pregnant. She eventually gives birth to a baby girl. Don, however, is displeased upon seeing the newborn. 4 years later, Sarah becomes pregnant again. Don tells his wife that he has received a promotion. Sarah's mother suggests hiring an investigator to find Sarah, but Don dismisses the idea. To pass the time, Don buys a TV for Sarah and her daughter. Later, Sarah gives birth to a baby boy. One day, Sarah's daughter falls ill with a fever. Don brings her medicine. On that same day, Don and Sarah have another fight. Christopher returns to Sarah's home to check on her. He shares with Sarah's sister what Don told him about Sarah running away. Sarah's sister begins to suspect her father but isn't entirely convinced. Sarah becomes pregnant for the third time. Don dismisses his wife's concerns and ignores Sarah's sister when she discovers strange items in the basement. Sarah gives birth to a third child, a boy. She asks Don to take the baby to her mother. Don leaves the baby outside the house with a note. Sarah's mother finds the note, which claims Sarah cannot raise the baby due to financial struggles. Another note accuses Don of imprisoning Sarah in the basement. Don becomes enraged after reading it. He punishes Sarah even more severely. Don, consumed by anger, returns to the basement and beats Sarah brutally for writing the note. Sarah becomes weaker from the abuse and struggles to keep her strength. Years pass, and Sarah's daughter grows older, but she begins to suffer more frequently from asthma attacks. One day, Sarah notices the basement ceiling leaking water. She realizes that the floor above might be weak and sees this as an opportunity. At night, Sarah uses whatever tools she has to create a small hole in the ceiling. Through the hole, she flashes a light in hopes of signaling someone for help. A passerby notices the light and informs Don about it. Don, furious, heads to the basement to confront Sarah. He beats her mercilessly, causing her to suffer a miscarriage.